The battle between President Trump and Fed Chairman Powell, I fear, is just getting started. The war of words is escalating. Just the other day, the administration said they are going to start interviewing replacements for Jerome Powell. The saying there being his term was up in May of 2026. They want to get ahead of the game. Then yesterday, Powell was interviewed and talked about basically what he's going to do. And I have a whole list of quotes we will get to in a minute. But needless to say, he was very much in the camp of wait and see, basically holding where they are now, not inclined to cut, not inclined to bail out the stock market, not inclined to lower the pain from tariffs. In fact, as you'll see in several comments, Powell is concerned about prices going up and going up significantly. This morning, Trump on Truth Social came out again and basically said, fire the man. He needs to go. He's not doing his job. Specifically pointing at the ECB, the European Central Bank, cut rates this morning. Why did ECB cut rates? Well, they said that the economy is setting up to be slower because of worldwide trade or tariffs, and they want to lessen the burden on the folks. So again, President Trump is leaning into this, trying to turn up the fire on Jerome Powell. I will remind you, for those who have not studied economic history, we have been here before. I would ask you to go review the history of President Nixon and Fed President Arthur Burns. Again, without going into layers and layers of detail, let's just say President Nixon wanted lower rates. He influenced, pushed, bullied, cajoled, whatever you want to say, Arthur Burns, and Arthur Burns relented. He cut rates. And if you don't know the full story, let's just say inflation went the wrong way. Arthur Burns was replaced by the man who came in and raised rates. Yes, Paul Volcker. Paul Volcker basically told Nixon, be damned, and took rates up and finally crushed inflation. The worst economy I had lived through pre-GFC was 81, 82. This was in the thick of it. Arthur Burns had been replaced. The United States was looking at a second round of inflation, and Paul Volcker took the Fed funds rate up. So this battle between Trump and Powell may seem unique. It's not. It's simply not unique. We have been here before. I would argue that most presidents want lower rates. Again, that's what they see as good for the economy, where the Fed is currently tasked with a dual mandate. And I would actually argue three mandates. The dual mandate is full employment, stable prices. Also, I think there is a third mandate, making sure the market is functioning appropriately. But that's sort of a third and secondary. So again, this is going to be ratcheted up. It would not shock me if President Trump tried to fire Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell has been asked repeatedly, if Trump asked you to leave or quit, would you? Right? Would you resign? The answer has always been no. Jerome Powell has said repeatedly there is no legal way for the president to remove him. That doesn't mean Trump's not going to try. This is going to yet be another thing that roils the markets. Again, I think the word of the day is uncertainty. Probably the word of the year is uncertainty. It is causing a lot of disruption out there, and we've got to keep our head on a swivel. Again, there is nothing wrong with cash. There's nothing wrong with, doing the work, protecting yourself, all of those things. So again, we'll get into more of Jerome Powell's statements here in a minute, but I did want you to know that it may feel like President Trump and Fed President Jerome Powell war of words is unique. It is not. You can, again, go back and look at President Nixon and Fed President Arthur Burns. It is shockingly similar, at least at surface levels. Let's get into some of the things that Powell said. Then we'll get into some earnings, and we'll talk home buyers. Let's talk about Powell. So there's a whole bunch of things that Powell said yesterday. And frankly, anytime Powell's getting in the media, we should listen to it. First off, Powell made it very clear that he is not going to bail out the stock market. The stock market has felt for a long time there was this thing called the Fed put. Basically, if stocks got wonky, the Fed would come in and be the saving grace. Powell is not going to be bailing out the stock market. And of course, as we said earlier, not bailing to the pressures of President Trump. Powell says that the economic impact of tariffs are larger than expected. Larger means more inflation, slower growth, aka stagflation. Stagflation is really a possibility. In fact, Eric Johnston from Counter Fitzgerald actually said these words out loud. Eric said, stagflation is best case scenario for 2025. I have to ask Eric, man, if you thought stagflation was the best case scenario, what's the worst case? I'm going to guess he thinks worst case is a depression or a significant recession. I would argue that the Fed knows how to handle a recession. The Fed does not know how to handle stagflation. And in fact, the last time we went through stagflation, it took replacing the Fed chair with Paul Volcker to kind of rip us out of this, causing back-to-back recessions, with the second one being worse and deep. I do not want to see families repeat what I suffered in 81, 82. I want no family to go through that horrible period. And again, Eric Johnson is putting it out there that stagflation may be the best outcome. Also, Eric went on to really highlight something that I think, if we're honest with each other, we would all agree with. A lot of investors today have been getting into the market more heavily the last 12 years. And frankly, we haven't had a normal business cycle recession. We've had this COVID recession, which was basically a V-shaped recovery. We've had some other market disturbances that were bailed out. So we are starting to see investors who are not ready for a normal recession. And frankly, that investors are used to buy the dip, V-shaped recoveries, and bailouts. Folks, that's not how it always works. We can go through short and shallow. We can go through long and deep. These recessions, these business cycles are real. And I would argue we're due for one. In fact, I called a recession 2 years in a row and was wrong. But the fact is, we have a lot of bad debt, a lot of leverage that needs to be worked out of the system. And that is traditionally the job of a recession. I will highlight one very concerning thing that I saw in the last 48 hours. It appears that home buyers, are increasingly turning to risky loans. Now, what do I consider risky loans? If you know my story, it's adjustable rate mortgages. Just seemingly a year ago, adjustable rate mortgages made up approximately 2% of originations, which is great. I will agree with you. There is some reasons to have an adjustable rate mortgage. There are not a lot of them, but maybe there are 2% of reasons. Now that is shot up almost 500%. What we've seen in the latest origination data, I believe the actual number is 9.6. I'm going to round it here to 10. We are now seeing 10%, 1 in 10 originations be an adjustable rate mortgage. Folks, if you are in my community, you know I do not recommend them. Every time one of my lenders bring them up, I'm like, ooh, ouch, no thanks. Again, there are a couple of legit reasons for them. Those are corner cases and very specific. I believe most people, when they get ARMs, are betting on the future. Have we not learned anything? Have you not heard me say higher for longer? I hate that whole buy the house, date the rate mindset. I've never blessed that. I've always thought it was catchy and cute, perhaps, but it is unhelpful, especially if you are an investor. If you need an adjustable rate mortgage to make your deal look good, the deal is not good enough. It is not a great deal. don't do that deal. You are setting yourself up for potentially some pain. I don't know if you saw the video with Anna Kelly last night, but hopefully you found it entertaining. What Anna Kelly and I decided to do this week is we thought we would take the pro and the con of President Trump's tariff policy. The video that released last night basically said President Trump is destroying the economy. Why did we do that one first? Well, if you've looked through our comments, especially interviews with Anna, you have seen her and I called everything in the book. You've called us and her mega extremists. You have called us some very nasty names, which I do not appreciate. So we decided to go into the first video and basically say Trump is an idiot. These are all the failures. These are all the mistakes. That video went live yesterday at 4 o'clock. Today at 4 o'clock, you will see the reverse. You will see an exercise that says Trump is a genius. This is the art of the deal. One of the things that hopefully comes from this exercise is you can see that we are intellectually honest. We do not see the world through MAGA or TDS. In fact, I think each extreme is highly dangerous. But again, I found it to be a very interesting exercise to challenge us or steelman the argument. We took both sides, and as hopefully you will see in the second video that comes out today, we were harsh and complimentary because, again, the world lives likely in the middle. So again, hopefully you appreciate that exercise. If you like those videos, I might do more of them. If you like to see us take other experts and argue both sides in separate videos, I would be happy to do that. So let me know. We did get some earnings, and as expected, they are nasty, nasty, nasty. United Healthcare came out today, missed revenue, missed earnings, and cut guidance. That is a triple miss, triple nastiness. I'm sure their stock is down today, but I haven't checked. To that end, D.R. Horton, National Home Builder, probably the earnings of the week that I wanted to see. They are equally nasty, missed on revenue, missed on earnings, and had weak guidance. Folks, this is going to be the theme of this earnings season. Every CEO, every business is going to take this as an opportunity to lower expectations. The fact that earnings for the S&P 500 have not been adjusted meaningfully lower is a mistake or error. The fact that the multiple is still 20 on a unknown earnings, it means that there could be lots of pain in the stock market ahead as numbers are adjusted. Let's congratulate a couple of people for doing the work. You have heard me say over and over, and I will repeat, that 2025 is the year of the investor. 2025 is going to suck for lots of people. However, real estate investors who do the work, write disrespectful offers, follow up, chase great deals, do deals of the decade, you are going to have a wealth generating year. Let's congratulate Sierra. Sierra got her, I think it was her second deal. I might be mistaken. I think it was her second deal. Might be mistaken. If I am Sierra, I apologize. But congratulations on getting your deal. And let's congratulate Mark for getting your next deal. Folks, if you don't know what these are one of the things that I do to measure my impact, see if people are following what we talk about: buy box, networking, disrespectful offers, follow up, great deals, all the things we talk about in my community on school, one rental at a time, 67 pennies a day. Both Mark and Sierra are in school. So if you are a school member, make sure you congratulate them because they did the work and they got their great deals. Folks, your cards will go out today. Let's get to Jerome Powell. I got, probably a dozen lines or quotes that I took from his interview that I thought were interesting. Pretty much all up across the board in no specific order. AI will bring dramatic change. Hard to know how it will shake out. Okay. Prices do not go down in aggregate except in extreme situations that no one should be encouraging. Okay. Legal framework for stablecoins is a good idea. interesting to hear the Fed president talk about stablecoins. Private credit has not been through a real credit event. The Fed is keeping a close eye. This is really talking about kind of non-bank lending, private credit, DSCR loans, for example, basically saying that industry is new and infant and hasn't been through a real credit event, so we shall see. Car company supply chains disrupted for years, leading to inflation persistence. Folks, this is my guess that Jerome Powell is trying to distance himself from transitory. Yes, remember Jerome Powell at the last FMOC meeting talking about transitory again, which was a mistake, which I laughed at, which I can't believe the guy said. He's now saying, guys, if these tariffs stick around, we are going to see tariff pressure, inflation pressure for years to come. So Jerome Powell is stepping away from transitory. Unemployment will rise and the economy will slow, a la stagflation. We are well positioned to wait for greater clarity before changing policy stance. And again, I remember as we opened up Trump versus Powell, Trump is not happy to hear pretty much anything from Jerome Powell that says, wait, be patient, inflation. Trump wants lower rates. Trump wants a shock absorber for the economy, to which I will remind you, the Fed has already cut 100 basis points and rates are still up 80 basis points. So just because the Fed cuts, maybe they cut in an emergency fashion, it does not mean the 10-year goes down. We have not been living in that world in quite a while. Folks, the last thing we will talk about as we wrap this up is gold. This is not on my bingo card. This is actually something I will ask Dan Bird about over the weekend. If you look at a 20-year chart today, gold, the yellow metal, is outperforming stocks on a 20-year basis. I don't know about you folks, but when I saw that headline, I was shocked that gold is outperforming stocks over 20 years. Now, obviously, that takes into account that gold is basically up $800 or $900 in very short order. It is the safe haven. It is the thing that some foreigners are selling treasuries and buying gold for. So again, maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I did not have that on my bingo card. Folks, lastly, again, let me remind you, join school today and you will have the opportunity to ask me questions, because on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, I will be going live and I will be taking all questions on all topics. You want to talk about economy, real estate, getting healthy, travel. I'm an open book. I'd love to hear from you. Love to take on different questions. Lastly, let's congratulate the newest member of school, Elena. Elena joined school in the last 24 hours. Folks, I hope you have an amazing day. Congrats to Sierra and Mark. Thanks to Elena. Have an amazing day, folks. Trump versus Powell. It's going to get entertaining. Thank you and take care.